the individual to protect the community. If the community is in danger, is allowed by and he is duty bound to protect the community to the extent of sacrificing his life. Because this is exactly the gist of the message which Mordechai sent to Esther. I mean, that we have discussed it last week. I want just to add, if you have the Rambam, Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, Rambam, Kahal. Yesodei HaTorah, the first section of Rambam. The first section. Perek Hei Halacha Hei. Perek Hei Halacha Hei. Yesodei HaTorah. Yeah. Yesodei HaTorah is the first section of Rambam. The first. Mado Sefer Mado Yesodei HaTorah. You have it? The first is the Rambam commences with Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah. It's Perek Hei. The Rambam is a Mishnah in Trumes. Noshim shomru lehem evdei kechavim. If a city is under siege, or a house is surrounded by the enemy, there are women in the house, and the enemy gives an ultimatum. I mean, just you have to surrender, extradite, just to one woman, in order will dishonor her. In love, and if you refuse to surrender her, Netame is kuchen. Will capture the house and will dishonor all of you. If the law is Yitamu Kulam, they have no right to extradite anyone. They have no right to surrender any individual in order to save the community or to save, the group. V'al yimosru lahem, v'al yimsru lahem, nefesh achas ve'Yisrael. It's forbidden to surrender to them even a single individual, one individual. V'chein, the same is true in Omru lahem evdei kechovim. Tnu lanu echad mikem v'ne'argeno. And again, a house or a city was surrounded by the enemy, under siege. The enemy wants just one individual. They'll kill the individual and the city will be saved. Yehorgu kulam, they should all be killed. The ultimatum should be rejected, should rather incur martyr's death, while yimsru lahem nefesh achas me'Yisrael. They have no right to surrender an individual in order to save the community. It's a Mishnah in Trumes. A Mishnah in Trumes. Now, doesn't this Mishnah conflict with our conclusion of last week? No, why? Why doesn't it conflict? It does not conflict. It is true it does not conflict. What I would like to know. You are talking all together. No, I said volunteer, and a matter of fact, this time. Of course, the first answer would be all the individual volunteers, it's his right, it's his privilege to volunteer and to sacrifice his life in order to save the community. The community has no right to enforce. It's a moral duty, it's not a legal duty, it cannot be enforced. This would be the answer. But if this be the case, then Mordechai actually Esther did not volunteer. There was no offer on the part of Esther, there was no suggestion on the part of Esther to go to the king. She resented it at the beginning. She said, everybody knows that whoever will appear in the inner court of the king, will be executed. Unless the king will let him touch scepter. Yes. But so apparently she argued with him. she finally agreed, and finally, she offered herself, actually, as a sacrifice for the community. But and he tried, actually, not only tried, he tried to coerce her, Of course, not physically, he couldn't, but simply by words, he tried to indoctrinate her. The message he sent to Esther was a very sharp and unequivocally, so to say, an unequivocally, stringent message. So apparently Mordechai thought that he has a right to influence her. It was not just it was more than influencing. It was almost coercive. Because he simply threatened her. No, it's also
all equally have the influence to do this. But in the case of Esther, she was unique in terms of what she could accomplish.
So here you are helping the enemy by delivering a victim to the enemy. You are actually aiding the enemy.
Basically, the answer would be the difference is not so much in what the community is supposed to do. The difference is what the enemy wants. If the enemy wants to kill a community, then the individual is duty-bound to save the community and sacrifice himself. On the other hand, if the enemy is not interested in the community, and is concerned with one individual to kill, then the community cannot save itself by sacrificing the individual. It depends upon the ultimatum, you see. In such cases, Yachid actually was guided by, not strange, but simply by one idea. To defy the enemy must be defied. Defiance of the enemy, and not to give him in, not to give in to him, but simply to reject, or preventing him from getting what he wants to get. Here in the case of Noshim Shamolem, when Tamo or give us one will kill him, so the enemy is interested in one individual. Just one individual, nothing else. They don't want, to touch the community. The community, per se, they are completely indifferent as far as the community is concerned. They want to kill one individual. So they community, but however, if their request will not be granted, so then they'll kill out because they'll avenge themselves on the community and they'll exterminate the whole community, correct? Then the individual must not be delivered. Because the delivery of the individual would mean giving in to the demand of the enemy. You understand? So in order, simply to defy the enemy, so the community must sacrifice all its members and in order to protect one individual. In the case of Mordechai and Esther, it's a different case. You see, the enemy was not interested in Esther. He was interested, on the contrary, in the community. And in order to prevent the enemy, the foe, you understand me? From realizing his intention. So an individual was Esther was told to sacrifice her life. It depends what the enemy requests or what the enemy demands. It is possible, someone suggested there is another answer. Because here in the case, the Rambam quotes, no individual was singled out. They only said, give us one. One woman, one man, one individual. Why should one individual? The question is, which one? So each individual, everyone, can say, each individual can say, why am I supposed to be the sacrificial lamb? Why not you? So that's, as a result, they cannot do anything, and the whole community should incur, death rather than unjustly sacrifice one individual which hasn't been marked by the enemy. What if the enemy has said, actually, I want this particular individual? The Rambam speaks about it. Vim yirdu klohem, and if the enemy singled out a certain individual, it didn't say just one of you, but a certain individual. V'yomru tnu lanu pleni in harikes kuchen, give us Mr. So-and-so, or we'll exterminate the whole congregation. If he's a criminal, he's yitnei shalem, we can deliver. But if he's not a criminal, he does not deserve to be punished. Again, makes no difference whether the individual was singled out or wasn't singled out. So this is not the reason why the community should sacrifice. Many likes not to save, and not to save. They wouldn't save the individual at all. I want you to understand. Here is something funny. The individual will not gain anything by it. Because when they'll exterminate the community, they'll exterminate the particular individual. I mean, whom the enemy has singled out and marked, you understand. So actually it doesn't mean the community should sacrifice itself in order to save an individual. Individual will never be saved. You have the Purim, everybody will be exterminated. Everybody will be killed. It will become incomplete. Complete extermination. So the idea is not saving. So what is the idea? What is the guiding principle? The defiance. The idea is defiance. The idea is defiance. You're not saving. If you speak in terms of saving a life, protecting a life, so you do it. I would say Mr. X has committed something, which in our opinion is very bad and he deserves capital punishment. If you'll deliver him, all right. If not, we'll simply have to blow up the town or the house. Not very simple ultimatum. So, they must not deliver. The individual should not be surrendered. No extradition. So what will happen to him? What will happen to this individual? He will not be saved, he will not be protected. He will also be killed. So what do you gain by it? What do you gain? What is the net gain of such a policy? Of resistance and defiance. And this is basically the concept of Kiddush Hashem. Because my case has raised the question. Kiddush Hashem is the case of apostasy, of idol worship, all the martyrdom of our saints, during the period of crusades and during the Khmelnytsky pogroms, they could have saved their lives, if they had agreed, if they had consented, to baptism. So they rejected. So Tesis raised the question. After all, what do you mean baptism? I don't believe that a single Jew believes in Christ and so forth. And everybody knows it's done by force. It's coercion. He does it under duress. So actually there is no sin involved in it. The action per se legally is not culpable. If I don't believe, and it's quite obvious to everybody that I don't bow to this particular idol because I believe, because I changed my conviction or I have faith. Simply because someone threatens to kill me. So why should I sacrifice my life? There is no ma'aseh, there is no sin involved. We accept the viewpoint. He's potter. He's not considered an idol worshipper. So why not fool the goy? Why not fool him? Many Jews did it. This is the story of the Moranas. This was the policy of the Moranas. What was their policy after all, I said, you don't believe, in Christianity anyway. But it's a question of life and death, If we perform, just accept Christian faith, so we'll be saved, and clandestinely we'll observe Yachid. You know the story of the Moranas. But the Moranas did not act in conformity with the law. The law requires, that if it's a question of apostasy, if the alternative is apostasy, then that is preferable to apostasy. So the question is, why is it called apostasy? I don't want, to desert. I don't want to change my faith. At heart, I am as loyal to the faith as ever. So does actually, the sprinkling of water makes much? Does this sprinkling of water make much difference? And Tesis has no answer. Tesis raised this question. Has no answer. The Rambam answers indirectly. But the enemy will think that the Jew has yielded. And this is exactly the point. The enemy should not think for a moment that the Jew has yielded to pressure, that the Jew is a coward. And he is ready to desert his faith. Because he threatens him with death, with torture. That's the Rambam. The Rambam said it in Sefer HaMitzvah. So the central idea in Kiddush Hashem is defiance. Defiance of any religious persecutor, of any religious tyrant. Even in cases in which, the action per se is not culpable. The action per se is coercive and actually has no relevance whatsoever. But once the tyrant or the persecutor or the enemy will think that he is triumphant, that he emerged triumphant from the engagement with the Jew, this is exactly what warrants Kiddush Hashem. And this is exactly what the Halacha is here. Because here is not a question of saving individual and sacrifice the community, because the individual will be killed and exterminated with the community. So why should the community engage in bloodshed, so to say, in order to not to save one individual? It is just tenacity which makes absolutely no sense, which is absurd. So the answer is it's not absurd. There's a purpose. What's the purpose? The purpose is defiance and resistance. Yes. We understand that there is no contradiction, no discrepancy between this Halacha and the story of Esther. You understand? That's what I wanted to say. Yes. Yes.
Could that be averted through a go wrong?
No. A lot doesn't mean anything. It's not only a question of the choice. The person was already singled out by the enemy. They want only Mr. X.
In the first instance.
As even in a case in which the person was singled out, marked by the enemy. So the law is that you should not surrender him to the enemy. What is a gerol? A gerol means, a gerol means nothing. It's completely weird. Now, let us just continue. If you'll open megillah Esther, just. These two psukim. The whole message which Mordechai sent to Esther, maybe the Perek, before Perek Hey. Vayim Mordechai lo Shiv Esther, Vatimer Esther la'asoch tzevei al Mordechai. כל עבדי המלך והמדינס המלך יידים אשר כל איש ואיש אשר יובל המלך לחוצר הפנימיס אשר לא יקורא אחזדוסי לאומיס לבד מה אשר ישק לי המלך אשר ותעזוב וחויה ואני לא נקרס לו ולך המלך זה שלישים יים. So it's interesting. So what did she tell him basically? What is the gist of her message? What's actually the essence of her, the substance of her message? Not accept. Accepted would be it's a mild understatement. Not only that. Yes, correct. Not only that.
She has been massively something.
It means one thing is just a far possibility, and one thing is quite probable. What is a far possibility? It's a far-fetched possibility. What is a far-fetched possibility? That she'll survive. That she'll survive. Because she knew from practice. Achashverosh seldom seldom actually, give him pardon. To warn and enter the dinner court, or dinner court. Yes. And this is quite probable. It's almost a certainty that she would not be pardoned by Achashverosh and she'll be killed. And then, of course, so then what did she suggest to him? What are the conclusions to be the right from her message? So hence, what is she supposed to do? So she said like that, if I should undertake action now, it was quite early. This happened around Pesach, you see. Vayav Mordechai, Vayas Kiddush of Esther. We don't know where the letter sent out. The letter was sent out by Yikoros Ifamela Bachedish Rishon, Bishlish Yesodei. Yembe, it means the 13th of Nisan. 13th of Nisan. Yeah. Where the letters, the epistles, sealed and sent out. Correct? The 13th of Nisan. Yes. And right away, right away, Mordechai appeared, at the gate, at the royal gate, sackcloth and so forth. Esther sent, her maid, to inquire of him, and the message he sent. So it means, the execution of the was supposed to take place when? The implementation of the decree, next at all, in a year, almost a year, in 11 months. 11 months. It's a long time. And he gave, what did he request of her? The request was a strange one. It was almost absurd. He said, Laris was Pashen Ksov Adoshnik and Mishishon Lashmidom Nasanlei. Laris is Esther. He gave her the copy of the decree, of the edict, to show it to Esther, with the Hagid law, and to tell her, to command her. She used to take, after all, Mordechai was her father. After he adopted her, she was a niece of his. And he adopted her, and she was disciplined by him and brought up by him, and she took his orders. The Pasuk says before, she had unlimited trust and faith in Mordechai, because Mordechai was her father. She was an orphan, and she was adopted by Mordechai and brought up by Mordechai. She had unlimited faith and trust in him. So it's not to have it law just to tell her. It would be advisable. No. Well, it's avisol. Okay. So Mordechai simply commanded Esther. Lover HaMelech means immediately, not to postpone. And to plead with him on behalf of our people. ואתם הרסת לעסוך ותצווה על מרדכי כל עבדי המלך והמדינס המלך ידי מה שכל איש ואיש עבר המלך עליו בכל צפני של כוח הסלומית להמשיך המלך ואני למקרה שלו המלך זה 30 ימים 30 days has been invited. All right. So what means, since White undertakes now something which will fail, I'm certain that the enterprise will end in failure, and failure means disaster, personal disaster as far as she is concerned, because she will be executed, and as far as the people are concerned, they wouldn't have anybody to plead, on their behalf with the king. Why not postpone a while? Perhaps next day, someone, a messenger may come from the king inviting Esther to come. They shall have the opportunity to talk to the king. Isn't it logical? It's quite simple and logical. After all, it's not the execution was supposed to take place, in 11 months. There's enough time, and there is no doubt that within that time, that period of time, the king will invite Esther to appear before him. And she wouldn't take the risk, the awful risk, and then she'll be in a better position, to plead with the king, and he should change the decree, the edict. This is exactly what Esther meant to say. Esther did not refuse to go. Esther meant to say that to appear now before the king would be foolhardy and not advisable. I believe it comes, what Esther said, makes a lot of sense. And what did Mordechai say? Apparently Mordechai did not change his mind. What did Mordechai say? ויאמר מרדכי לראש ולאסתר, אל תדמי ונפשך למולד בית המלך מכל היהודים. כי מחריש תחיש בית הזייס, רווח והצולו ימד ליהודים וכמחר, ועתו ואיס אביך תבדו, מידי הנאיס כזייס הגעת למלכות. So how did he counteract such her argument? How did he refute her argument? So he had to refute her argument. It is what we call it in Hebrew, in Halacha Hebrew. I mean, his advice was rochek mischar l'korel lehesed. The risk was obvious, so the gain was very doubtful. So I mean, how did he refute this argument? How did he meet this argument? It's a very practical argument. What do you mean?
During the year, she may no longer be in a position to help.
No, but he said, Rasha, the contrary, but no, the contrary, he said. First of all, he said, what did she say? If she should be killed, apparently the message here, I mean, is very brief, but apparently it was elaborated to Mordechai, I mean, this is just a very terse report. Record of the message. She said, if I should be killed, if Achashverosh should not pardon my appearance, simply let me be executed, then you won't have anybody to appear before the king. Then the people, the community is lost. At least now you have me. And at the opportune time, at the opportune moment, I'll plead with the king. But if you rush me, you'll press me, to take action immediately, and I should be killed, executed, there'll be no one, in the royal palace who will say a good word on behalf of the Jewish people, correct? So what did he say? So first of all, he rejected that. He said, Revach v'atzolo yamei laYudim maknach. Don't think that you are the only person who actually who can save the Jews. I don't know who else, but I know that the Jewish community will be saved. It's number one. So it means if she should be executed by Achashverosh, so someone else will come in. He didn't know. But salvation will come from another source. So it means like that, what he said, that no individual, this is something very important in Yadus, no individual, no matter how important his service is, and no matter how indispensable his contribution is, individuals of historical relevance, who played great roles in history, in Jewish history, can say that he is responsible for the salvation of the people, or for the perpetuation of the Jewish community and so forth. Individual is duty bound to do his share. But if not this individual, someone else will have come. This is it. You are now in a position to make your contribution. But don't think even in one moment that you are the only one. Someone else will save the Jewish people. This is number one. And second, what did he say? You'll be summoned. The probability was you'll be summoned. But he said something else. Someone remarked it. Who knows whether you'll be queen long enough? Who knows whether you'll be queen long enough? If Achashverosh can change his mind, but not a very persistent follower, not very consistent, So who knows, next day you'll find someone else. Even the Pasuk says in interest, it's quite interesting. So after he married Esther, he should have given up, he should have dissolved all the agencies, so apparently still, Shashgas, whoever he was, or Haggai, was still busy. So who knows, he'll find it better looking, one away. Or one will find grace in his eyes. She'll be better looking than you. And you'll be simply, removed from your throne. And so actually don't postpone it, because I'm not too sure that you'll be clean the next year or the next 12 months. Im Yidea, im Leis Kozeis, Igat Lamalchus. Im Yidea, im Leis Kozeis, Igat Lamalchus. What does Rashi say? שהוא יעימד בניסן, זמן הריגה בעוד הראשון הבא, הגעת למלכוס, אם תגיע לגדולו שעד בו עכשיו, you'll have the same glory that you enjoy now, or the same position, the same singular position that you are enjoying now. It's exactly. This is number one. Number one is that you are not the only person. And secondly, who knows whether you'll have the opportunity a month from now, not only a year from now, a month from now, or a week from now, who knows? It's very hard, to guess Achashvero's mood and to predict, his relationship, to you, next week or tomorrow, you see. And secondly, the Leis Kodesh Gat Lamalchus can be interpreted two ways. If next year at this time you'll still be clean, if next year at this time you'll be clean, it means not only next year at this time you'll be clean, whether you'll be clean tomorrow or after tomorrow or next week or next month. You cannot postpone. You're expecting Ahasuerus to summon her, to invite her to come. He might dislike you, that's all. He'll send you away or kill you away, the way he did with Vashti. It's number one, not number two. Number three, there's not a pshat in Leis Kodesh Gat Lamalchus. Perhaps the reason that you became queen is because in order to save the people. This the Rav Nezra interprets like that. In Leis Kodesh Gat Lamalchus, not Leis Kodesh a year from now, but means for this occasion, for this situation, in order to save the people. Because, as a matter of fact, it was incomprehensible. Mordechai did not understand why Esther was chosen queen. Why was she chosen as the queen? As a matter of fact, Chazal says that she was not the best looking girl. Chazal says that she was, as a matter of fact, she had only charm, that's all. Fatisho chen in Hebrew, chen does not mean beauty, it means charm, on the contrary. So Chazal say Neach was just like the others. But somehow God liked him. Yeah, personality, charm, whatever. I didn't understand. You see that Mordechai, the very moment Esther was chosen, so Mordechai realized that there is something, that the future holds something in store for our people. מרדכי מסלח לפני חצר ובכל יום ויום מרדכי מסלח לפני חצר בשנושם לדעת שלם אסתר ומה יוספו. This was before she was taken to the king and was chosen queen, but even later ביומים ההם של אסתר he was sitting in the royal gate, in front of the gate. What was he doing there? What was he doing there? Because Mordechai expected news. Somehow. He expected something will happen. Because he could not understand that his niece, Esther, why his niece was chosen as the queen of the empire, the Persian empire. He couldn't understand it. He didn't attribute it, just to natural factors. like beauty or charm, something the Hashgoche prepared Esther to perform a task, a great task, to make a contribution, but didn't know what kind of a contribution, what will happen, what situation will develop. The very moment you heard about the edict, so you realized what Esther was chosen for. And if Esther was chosen for this job, so there is no risk involved. So Mordechai was assured already, was certain that nothing will happen to Esther. You understand? If she was chosen as queen, only for this purpose, to save the Jewish community, to protect the Jewish community, and to make Ahasuerus, abolish, the Gzere, so you realize that nothing will happen, and certainly when she'll appear before the king, the king will certainly pardon her, even though she was not invited, and that her plea will be successful. That's exactly what Mordechai realized. So Mordechai sent actually 3 messages to Esther. First of all, you are not the only one to whom the Hashgoche has entrusted the fate and the destiny of the Jewish people. You are now in a position to save the people, but you are not the only one. If you will fail, someone else will come in. Will substitute you. I don't know who, but I'm sure that someone else will perform the job courageously, the way he's supposed to. It's number 1. Because Esther apparently emphasized her singular position to save the people. This is exactly number 1. You're not only. Second, I'm not too sure that next week or a week or a month from now you'll still be queen and you'll enjoy the same privileges and prerogatives you are enjoying now. So al-tach mitzena. Don't miss the opportunity. The opportunity offered itself now, utilize it. And third, this is now I understand why you were chosen queen. It's not for your beauty or for your personal charm. You were chosen queen because you'll be the messenger and the spokesman and the apostle of the Jewish people. So don't postpone it. This is exactly why God has chosen you queen. You know, Chazal had, you'll find it in Kalil's Payet. Wherever there is a Melech HaChashverosh in the later Psukim, so the Kalil translated into Melech Malchi Amlochim. Balala hu no doshnas HaMelech, the Gemara says, Achashverosh didn't sleep, so what are it? But God Almighty didn't sleep. God Almighty was aroused. That's why the miracle happened, you see. So actually you are not chosen by Achashverosh, you are chosen by the Melech Malchi Amlochim. And this is the reason, and this is the purpose, this is the objective. And you are called, I call upon you, to fulfill your duty. So 3 messages. She was chosen for it. No one knows what will happen next. And third, if she will fail, someone else will come in. And apparently Esther understood. But there is something else which Mordechai said, and it's very important to American Jews.
That subconsciously she may be trying to save her life, accept it out.
Yeah, just a moment. I'm going to say something. This is the idea of a common destiny of the Jewish people. The Jewish people have a common destiny. What I call a common destiny, in Hebrew would be a gerol mishutaf, a koral mishutaf. Common destiny means no one can save himself if the Jewish people are exposed to danger. They cannot say, I am safe. I have seen it. I've experienced this. When actually primitive and beastly anti-Semitism was rampant in Poland. It was in the 20s, when I came, the late 20s, when I came to Germany. So German Jews used to say, it can't happen to us. It cannot happen here. And they gave reasons which were quite valid, cogent, weighty reasons, I mean. The same reasons I hear now in America from Western Jews as well. Because we are in, the Jewish community has never been integrated in the Polish community, correct? Never been integrated. The Jews in Poland lived in a ghetto, completely separated from the Polish community. I mean, the language was a different language. Now, it was not just a question, a distinction as to worship. I mean, Jew and Goy lived in two different worlds. Habits, morals, and I mean, culture. Actually, I mean, it was a completely two different communities. So actually, the Jew remained a stranger to the Pole, even though the Jew lived in Poland for so many hundreds of years. I mean, it's one of the oldest Jewish, yeshuvim of Poland. The Jew remained a stranger, an outsider. The Pole didn't know the Jew. He didn't know the Jew. Didn't know. After 1,000 years sojourn in Poland, the Jew was a foreigner, alien to the Pole. He didn't know. Even though he saw the Jew and he met the Jew and did business with the Jew and the Jew, performed many tasks on behalf of the Polish aristocrats, the so-called Schlachter, but still the Jew was an alien to the Pole. That's what the German Jews used to tell me. So that's why he hates, because anti-Semitism basically is the hatred of the alien, of the foreigner, of the one whom I don't understand, whom I don't know. But in Germany, the Jewish community was integrated completely. More integrated than American Jewish communities. It was more integrated in many respects, because it's a longer history. That's all. Integration of a community into its environment, takes time. It's not only a question of language. It's a question of so many intangible factors. It takes time. And it's completely integrated as to language, as to culture, as to participation and contribution. After all, the most prominent writers in the 20s in Germany were Jews. The greatest producers, Jews. The greatest scientists, Jews. Wherever you turned, you came across Jewish names. How is it possible? Same argument. I am in the royal palace. I'll be saved. The poor Jews in the ghettos will be killed or will be persecuted. The logically impossible, the logically absurd and paradoxical happened. It's very strange. I can't understand it. I'll tell you later. Happened. That's exactly what Mordechai said to Esther. Subconsciously, Esther, somehow he suspected her. That subconsciously, Esther thinks that she will survive anyway the Holocaust. Because she will touch the queen. Who will threaten the queen, the beloved queen of Achashverosh, not even Haman. In spite of his arrogance and impudence. He will never dare to touch her. First of all, no one knew her background, to what race she belonged. No one knew. In Esther Maggid's Samovas Meladato, no one knew that she was a Jewess. No one knew. So Esther certainly will survive. So that's what he sent her again. This is the fourth, actually, message he sent her. If this thought is somehow, so to say, you have this thought in your mind that you'll be protected, and you'll save yourself, and nothing will happen to you, and you're not supposed to sacrifice your life for the lives, of the Jews who live in the various ghettos throughout the Persian Empire. You are making a fatal mistake. The Jews will be saved. I am more concerned with your fate than with the fate of all the Jews. The Jews will be saved. But to be the queen of Achashverosh, there is no security in this career, to be the queen of Achashverosh. It might be that on the day of the pogroms, Achashverosh will finally decide to send you away. And you'll find yourself in the Jewish ghetto. and will be exterminated with all the Jews. Basically, I mean, this is more or less the gist of Mordechai's message. No individual should consider himself indispensable. It was the trouble with Dr. Weizmann, the trouble, that he considered himself indispensable for the Jewish people. This was his trouble. This was actually a defect in his personality. He was a very capable man, actually sacrificed his career, sacrificed his life for the Jewish people, for Israel. But he thought that if not for him, the Balfour Declaration wouldn't have been released. It's not true. It's not true. Historically not true. Lately I read in some evidence. Yeah. But he considered himself, I knew him personally, he considered himself indispensable for the Jewish people. If not for him, the whole dream of the Jewish state would have never been realized. And that's why he was so bitter later when he had no influence. I mean, and the government, he thought that the Jewish people are ingrates, or the issue at least, I mean, is not grateful enough to him. Because the presidential office in Israel is just more of a ceremonial character. This was basically what I resented in him. And this is exactly what Mordechai sent, the word he sent to Esther. No individual is indispensable. Sometime individual is chosen, selected. We should consider it as a privilege, rather, to act on behalf of the Jewish people. But if this individual had fails, someone else will step in. That's exactly the first message. The second message is that Esther don't enjoy a sense of false security. You are not secure. Your security and the security of the poor Jew in the ghetto are on the same level. And the third message, actually, is that you are chosen queen of Persia, of the great empire of Persia, for one purpose only, not because of your virtues, but because of your beauty, or your figure, your face, your appearance, not because of that, your charm, because you are the messenger whom God has selected, to save his people. And don't fail in this undertaking. Don't fail to discharge your duty, which was imposed upon you by the Almighty. Now, I want to remove something, to say something about the Megillah Esther itself. It's very important. It is very important, and basically there's quite a literature on it, mostly of anti-Semitic nature. What happened? What transpired? Esther succeeded in persuading Ahasuerus, to remove Haman from the premiership, and Haman was executed, as a matter of fact. What happened? Actually, the edict was not removed. The edict was not abandoned, was not cancelled. And as a matter of fact, even many Jews, I come across such opinions and literature and essays and articles quite often, say that Megillah Esther is a terrible story of bloodthirsty Jews who just killed innocent Gentiles. Exactly. And many Jews are misled by this stuff. The story is, if you see, we now begin to understand Megillah Esther much better in light of recent events. This is recent, not only events of this year, which are important too, but events of the last 2 decades, I would say, last 2 or 3 decades. We begin to realize the importance of Megillah Esther, and that the Jews actually were engaged in combat who are not just bloodthirsty beasts who just wanted to kill as many Gentiles as possible. If you take chapter Ches, ותיפד אסתר ותדבר לפני המלך ותיפל לפני רגלו ותפק ותסחן אלי להעביר את רוע השמן האגוגי ואת מחשבתי שחושב על היהודים. To rescind actually the conspiracy of Haman and actually and to simply to revoke the edict, correct? ויש המלך לאסתר שב ותעזוב את הכנסת המלך ותאמר יקוסב להושיב את הספורים מחשבת הומן בן עמדוס הגוגי אשר כוסר לאבד היהודים אשר חוב בגלל המלך כי חוכו לך וראיסי לא אשיב תצאמו יחוכו לך וראיסי בעובדם נולדתי. You have it. So she asked what I mean that the edict be cancelled, be declared void, nullified. ויאמר המלך לאסתר אחשוורוש לאסתר אמרת למרדכי היהודי הנה בייס הומו נסעתי לאסתר ויסיתו על העץ על אשר שולח יודי ביהודים. Means I have punished him because for his desire has not accomplished yet, it hasn't been implemented yet, for his desire or for his conspiracy, for his intention, to destroy. ואתם תשרו ליהודים כתב ביניכם. You can write whatever you want with reference to the Jews. B'Shem HaMelech, the Chishbet HaBasimah can seal it with the ring of the king. Tichsov asher nifto B'Shem HaMelech, v'nachtem b'tabas HaMelech ein loshiv. Because any edict which was written on behalf of the king and was sealed with the tabas, with the ring of the king, cannot be revoked, cannot be cancelled, cannot be nullified. What did he mean? He meant I can't revoke the edict. No royally could be nullified according to the law in Persia. Even if the king himself changes his mind, the edict prevails. This was the law in Persia. It's not a matter of fact, a law passed by Congress cannot be just revoked by Congress. So you have, Congress has to be, it's a new act of legislation, you see. If a new act of Congress, let's say, I don't want the law. A new act of legislation, a new bill should be introduced, in order, to nullify a certain amendment or a certain law, whatever it is, this type of legislation was not, known to the Persian kings. The Persian code did not know legislation for the purpose of nullifying a decree which was issued by the emperor himself. And it was signed by the emperor and sealed with the emperor's tabas, ring. You know the problem, Haman, of course, it's wrong. You see, it's wrong, of course, and I punished him, and I turned over his house. His house apparently was a sign of status. And I'll appoint perhaps Mordechai as prime minister instead of Haman, to substitute for Haman, but it cannot be changed. This is the law. Apparently Esther and Mordechai didn't know of that law. This law was unknown to them. They thought if the king can issue an edict, he can change an edict. He can revoke an edict. He can nullify. No, he says, Tichsov asher nichtov b'Shem HaMelech v'nachtem v'tabaz HaMelech ein lo ashiv. She asked, what did she ask? V'ateimer im al HaMelech tov. If the king is kind, if I find grace in his eyes, v'chosher adov alifnei HaMelech, so he considers it as important. Anyway, of course, enough flattery and panegyrics. Yikosev, just one letter, one pistol should be sent out to Hoshiv to nullify, to revoke, as for him, the edict, Machsheves Haman ben Amdoso HaGogi, Asher Kosav La'aved Es HaYudim Asher B'chol Medinei Samera. That's what you ask. After all, the purpose was not to kill Haman. The purpose was to save the community. And Mordechai took it for granted that after the meal, to which Achashverosh, got into a tantrum, defeat, and he came back, and Harina said that there is the pole which Mordechai has, Haman is put up for Mordechai, and Mordechai and Haman was hanged, executed, that she asked Achashverosh, to revoke, to cancel, the edict, and that's all, and the salvation will be completed. No, suddenly she hears from Achashverosh about Persian law that such no change, a royal edict can never be changed. Not even the king himself. Not even even though the king changed his mind and he realizes that the wrong that was committed, it was a mistake, an error, a fatal error, but once it was signed and sealed and sent out and proclaimed as a law, there is no way how to change. For instance, the Congress per se cannot change the Constitution. It must have a process, 2/3 of the states or the legislature. This is, in Persia, the law couldn't be changed. That's all. Not even the king himself. So now, what is the solution? What is the solution? So she failed in her mission. Solution is only one thing. To arm the Jews and let them defend themselves. This is not cancellation of the old edict. The old edict was, that the enemy be armed, provided with ammunition, as Russia does it with NATO, you see, provide ammunition, and declare an embargo on ammunition as far as Jews are concerned. This was the substance of the edict. It is ancient history. It sounds like modern history, like headlines from the papers. Yes, or on the radio. This was an embargo on ammunition to Jews. No one is supposed to sell any arms to the Jews because the Jews have got to be exterminated. There's no reason. They have no right to defend themselves. No right to defend. This was the edict of Holland. When the edict was issued, what does it mean, Hasidim Layim Hazeh? What does it mean, Hasidim Layim Hazeh? What does it mean, Hasidim? Should be armed, should be prepared. It's preparedness. They knew very well the Jews will try to defend themselves. So the edict was the law, the proclamation of the edict, emphasized, Li Hasidim Layim Hazeh. That means the Jews should not be Hasidim. The Jews will not be able to arm themselves, to defend themselves. Simply an embargo. No one is allowed to sell any arms, any firearms to a Jew, but they can sell all the arms, all the ammunition ones, to the to the enemies. That's all. Now, with the change of policy, and Achashverosh himself, they realized the complexity of the problem. He said, you can write about the Jews, katev beinechem, whatever you want to write. Doesn't mean whatever you want. What can you write if the former edict will not be revoked, will not be cancelled, will not be modified? So you mean katev beinechem? What sympathy? A message of sympathy, of compassion. What is katev beinechem? It means one thing. B'shem HaMelech v'shishim et Abbas HaMelech. Tichsor asher nichto b'shem HaMelech and nachtem et Abbas HaMelech Elohim. But I cannot grant you this request. I cannot nullify the decree, the edict which was issued. Vayikor Sefer HaMelech בחידש ההיא, ויחתם בתעש, ויחתם בשם המלך אחשוורוש, יחתם את הבעס המלך, אשר נוסן המלך ליהודים. The king has granted the right to the Jews. אשר בכל עיר ועיר, he called to assemble. They had no right of assembly anymore, you see. In order to prepare, a defense, you have to assemble, An individual cannot defend himself. against the multitude. So you have to organize armies. You have to organize not an army, brigades. But the Jews had no right to recoil before. No right of assembly, no public assembly. And the assembly of Jews who used to be dispersed. So how could you train the Jews, How could you prepare them to defend themselves? Recoil, v'lamed al nafsham, and to defend themselves. What means v'lamed al nafsham? Plain English. To defend themselves. And if to defend, they have a right lahashmid, laharik, lahabed, es kol cheil amem dilo. Any army, atzor meson, which will lay siege to their cities. Atzor meson, what means tzorim? Rashi always says there is a difference in Erev and Tzar. Erev means one who has evil intentions vis-a-vis somebody. Just conspiring. And Tzar means one is implementing his evil intentions. Tzar basically means, to besiege or to lay siege to a town, a community. Which means Atzor Meson, those who will attack them. Simple. It's the same story as what happened in June, in Eretz Yisrael. Atzor Meson, Tavanosh, Mishlomo, to defend themselves. They have the full right to defend themselves. B'yim echad, Pashishegen ha'aksovi, Nasindot b'chol medina medino, Goyu l'chol ha'amin, V'liyes ha'Yehudim, ha'Sidim, again ha'Sidim, here is the Yehudim. The Yehudim were armed, provided with ammunition, given the opportunity, to organize defense brigades. We not came to avenge themselves, from those who want to kill them. Who fired the first shot is the same problem which the United Nations dealt with. Who cares who fired the first shot? What difference it makes? I don't know who fired it. Megillah Esther the first shot. We still don't know who fired the first shot, in the Sinai in the desert. This exactly. This is it. This is exactly. It's the difference. Now, ולשניהם עשו חידש לחידש הדור, בשביל שעשו ימבי, אשר גיל דבר המלך ודופן לעושה יזביים, אשר סיברוי והיהודים לישלט בהם. I mean, liשלט, the word liשלט is characteristic. Liשלט means, shilta means unlimited, usually. כשלטון לפניך. We say in כשלטון לפניך, or השלטון לפניך, in v'chentim paradochon, yom neroim tefillah, means unlimited power. Power which cannot be resisted. Power to which no one can offer resistance. It means omnipotence. Asher sibru ega Yehudim, they intended lishleit b'hem. It means to exercise unlimited power. It means unlimited power. It means without, power which the Jews will not be able to resist. Because the Jews will not be able to defend themselves. That's what happened. Why? The resistance, the Pasuk tells us that actually, when the war had happened exactly then, what happened in Sinai Peninsula? They were on the run, and the Jews pursued them. It's the same story. And that's all. And take a look. Tezayin, Usheor HaYudim, Asher B'mdinas HaMelech, Kahal have assembled, Pasuk Tezayin. V'yomid al nafsham, defended their lives. Of course, if you defend yourself, you have to kill. You can't defend yourself. If someone wants to kill you, kill him first. So the old rule in Yachid. This is exactly what happened here. It's a different story. You understand it better now. After the Hitler Holocaust and the story of Israel, his Russia arming Egypt, and all Western powers declaring an embargo on our shipment of arms to Eretz Israel, we understand the megillah Esther better. It's also a question of self-defense, nothing else. And this is exactly what happened. Nothing else. Had Ahasuerus revoked the edict, had he simply cancelled his command, previous command, there wouldn't have been any need, for defense, and the whole story would have been a different one. But since he couldn't do it, the law prevented him, so the only way was for the Jews is to defend themselves. Of course, if Russia hadn't armed Nasser, the whole war wouldn't have taken place. This is not apologetic. This is plain shot, plain interpretation of the megillah. Whoever knows Hebrew and knows the semantics will understand that this is the truth. Here's what you want to ask. Very simple. I'll give you an example, for instance. I want to give you an example. Just a minute. Yeah. It's there is a strange passage here. Vayomer Shmuel, the story of Agag, kasher shiklo noshim cha'becho, ken tishkal minoshim mimecha. As thy sword has robbed the women of children, so shall thy mother be bereaved among women. Correct? Those mean thy sword has robbed women of children. Where? Where did it happen? No. Speaking about the present, Shmuel and Agag spoke about it. It is the story, apparently. Agag or Amalek did what the Arabs do now. Some terror bands were organized. They used to infiltrate the Jewish territory, come into Israel, and kill children, kill women. You've got to see it in a different perspective, you see. And he said, kasher shiklo noshim chabecho, ken tishka minoshim mimecho. In the way, many mothers lost their children on account of you, because they had a habit, apparently, of killing children. Apparently, this was, the way how he wanted to terrorize, and to confuse, Israel. He used to kill little children. He used to kidnap children and kill them. Came to Tishkal Menashe Mimecha. In the same manner, your mother will be bereaved among women. This is exactly. When they asked for the second day, it meant they should have the right, the second day to defend themselves. Because Esther knew that in Shushan there are many who are still conspiring to kill the Jews. All right, now they lost the first round, there will be a second round. And they thought about a second round in Shushan. The megillah is very terse, the movie is very terse and brief, You've got to read between the lines. Esther knew there are certain groups which conspire, to continue. But now, for the moment, the Jews had had the advantage of being armed and being prepared. But they thought, all right, it's not now, it's later, in a month from now, in 2 months, in 5 months from now. I think the edict cannot be cancelled, The edict continues, the edict is valid forever. So, the danger, is quite acute, you understand. Hasn't passed yet. And she knew of groups, of bands, of a movement, When to keep quiet, to go underground for a while, keep quiet for a while, and then later when the Jews will forget about the whole incident. So there, someone told me, I don't want to mention his name, that Tito told him, the war was won in the first 4 hours in the morning, between 4 and 8, I believe, in the morning story here. Next time, the first 4 hours will belong to us. It's exactly. Because Tito in this regard is worse than anybody else. That's what he says. The first 4 hours on June the 5th belong to the Jews. Next time it belonged to the Arabs. He said to us. This is exactly what Esther was afraid. They'll make a surprise attack on the Jews, and the Jews will be defenseless, and they'll exterminate. See, the edict is in force, I mean. So Esther said, you nothing mocha la Yudim las es kadas ayim. So, I mean, if we could now, I mean, believe me, if not for Russia, I mean, what should Israel do now? Attack Egypt. The only trouble is Russia in the Middle East. Otherwise, Israel would have attacked Egypt long ago, if not for Russia. I mean, you sometimes, I mean, engage in preventive war, I mean, actually. All right, what do you want to say?
Only for that one day?
No, apparently it was good for forever. It should start that day. It should start. This is exactly what it is. I mean, this is the story. It's just the Jews under defense. But sometimes the Jews were defenseless, and during the Hashmonash, I mean, in the story of Esther, the Jews could defend themselves, so they could defend themselves, I mean, in June 1967. It's exactly the same story. Now I would like to call your attention to something else. The story how Purim was accepted. It's not a plain story. We'll start Posuk Yutes. כן, היהודים הפרוזים כן, היהודים הפרוזים הישבים באורי הפרוזיס עשים עשרים ארבעשר ועשרים חמישה חידש הדור שמחו משתה ויום טוב ומשלח מונס איש לרעהו ומעצונס לאביינים. correct? So no, correct, you're right. ויכתוב מרדכי את הדברים האלה וישתספו לכל היהודים אשר בכל מדינת המלך אחשוורוש הקרבו וחייקים לקיים עליהם ויפסים 20 עד 10 לחידש הדור ו20 15 בי בכל שנה ושנה כיום מה שנוחו בהם היהודים מאיביהם ואחרי שנפח להם מיודן לשמחו ואז הם משאירו את המסורים על טלפון ג'ינים וקיבל היהודים את השכן לעשה שפוסף מרדכי עליהם, correct? כאן בן הדוסת כל היהודים חושבים לעבדם ותתפו הגר למלעבדם אוקים קורא ליום מהיום מאלה פורים השם הפור על כן על כל קימו וקיבלו היהודים עליהם ועזר מקורבים עליהם ויעד עליהם סייסים משני היום אלה כסוף הזמן ראשון ושונה יום אלה נזכור למעשים וכל זה ודאי משפחה מתנמדינה ויהיה מהפור מלאה מתך היהודים זיכרון ליוסף מזרם. What do you mean? He said already that the Jews started to celebrate Purim. Well, why I mean the emphasis again? I mean, the Kibbutz Yudim is Asher Chilul Aseis. Kibbutz Kibbutz Yudim Aleim Valzam Oklanim Aleim. It's too long. I mean, the megillah usually it's very terse and brief. I mean, it's too long. The megillah is somehow. I mean, recording. I mean, the history of Purim. I mean, in a very strange manner. Basically, the Rambam already noticed. והיהודים, על כן היהודים הפרוזים, הישבים בורי הפרוזיס, עשים 20 עד 10 לחידש הדור שמחו ומשתה ויומטף, ומשלח מונס איש לרעהו. It's Pasuk Yutes, yes? Pasuk Yutes, correct? This apparently was a spontaneous acceptance of Purim on the part of the Yehudim Borei HaProzim, in the open cities, not in the walled cities. Because the Yehudim, the Mekofis Chemor, the walled cities, are not mentioned here. The residents of the Mekofis Chemor, are not mentioned here. Alkin HaYehudim HaProzim HaYeshim Borei HaProzim Eisim Esim HaBosel Chedesh Ador Simche Umishte V'Yintiv Umishleach Mones Ish L'Reyu. ויכתב מרדכי, יש כל הדברים האלה, ויש לסבור כל היהודים, לקיים עליהם, ליפייסים, לשים בעשר, לחידש הדור, ושים 15 בכל שנה ושונה, to observe not only the 14th, but the 15th as well. It means, in other words, that Mordechai recommended that Purim be observed not only by the residents of the open cities, but by the residents of the walled cities as well. Because the walled cities, observe Purim on the 15th day of Ador. This year in Eretz Yisrael don't have many cities like that. Hebron and old Yerushalayim. About New Yerushalayim, it was a question, a very serious question. But old Yerushalayim, there's no problem. It's a Mukefes Chayim Eis Yeshua Benun. And Hebron is a Mukefes Chayim Eis Yeshua Benun. And there are a few more cities. Mukefes Chayim Eis Yeshua Benun. And these people who lived in the walled cities, there are many walled cities, you see. And the Rambam says very well, the Ram quotes him. The Rambam says, what is the idea that spontaneously only the people who live in the open cities accepted, the holiday of Purim, and they began to celebrate it. And Mordechai recommended that not only the residents of the open cities, but of the walled cities as well. Why? Because basically, the Jews in the open cities were exposed more to danger than those in the walled cities. Because with the Jews who were in the walled cities, and there was a garrison, apparently the garrison, the walled city, not all garrisons, were enemies of the Jews, they didn't conspire. On the contrary, the Jews in the walled cities, thought that they would be protected, by the garrison and the wall and the fortress. They did not think they are as exposed to danger as those living in the villages and the open cities. So they did not rejoice so much. They did not rejoice. Again, they thought they'll save themselves. Only the Jews in the small cities, in the open country, were exposed to extermination, to the danger of being exterminated. Not the Jews in the walled cities. Alkin HaYehudim HaProzim HaYeshim Borei HaProzis Eisim Esim HaBosel Chedesh Ador Simche Umishte V'Yintiv Umishleach Mones Ish L'Reyu. Very interesting. What is missing here? The walled cities, the residents of the walled cities, and another, not custom, another precept of Purim, a very important central precept of Purim, the Matanis L'Yedim, charity in Purim. ויכתב מרדכי את הדברים האלה, וישלח ספרים על כל היהודים אשר בכל מדינת המלך אחשוורוש, הקרבים והחיתים, לקיים עליהם ויפייסים וסיים בעשר לחידש הדור ושים 15. It means that the walled cities should join the open cities in celebrating Purim. Again, the same idea. No exceptions among Jews, no exemptions. If there is a common destiny, no one can simply extricate himself from this particular destiny. Everyone is involved in a common Jewish historical destiny. This is very important. Basically, that's why we are called Am. Am is a derivative from im, together, with. This is Am. This is theologically correct. It's not Rush, it's philologically correct. This is Am. Am means in, together. Am. We are together. There's no discrepancy, there's no distinction. All Jews are the same aristocrats. And no Jew should tell himself or simply try to persuade himself that he will be an exception. He will be an exemption. Yes, and he says, "V'kibul haYehudim es asher achilu la'aseis." Interesting. "V'kibul haYehudim and the Yehudim have accepted what it started to do spontaneously. What did it start to do spontaneously? Just that the residents that Purim was celebrated in the open towns. And they also accepted Asher Kosav Mordechai Aleim. What Mordechai added. What did Mordechai add? What did Mordechai add? That the entire Jewish community, regardless of where they live, regardless of whether they live in the walled city, and they had protection, and the war with the garrison, with the commander of the garrison on friendly terms, and the commander of the garrison, promised them, he'll protect them, he'll guard, he'll never let in the enemies. We know during the Khmelnytsky pogroms, that the Jews in the walled cities, then the Poles promised them to protect them. And what happened was in Yemerov and Turchin, and what happened? That the Poles, the aristocracy, the Polish Schlachter, the aristocracy, has, reached a deal, I would say, an agreement with the Cossacks, that they'll let them in, they'll open the gate at night, and they'll kill the Jews, but the Poles be safe. Of course, the agreement was never honored. They killed the Jews first, and then they killed the Poles as well. Yes, of course, it's history, it's just our history. But Jews, actually, when a person is in danger, a person is in a hopeless situation. You see, you stretch out your hand for a straw, you see, a person is about to drown, will stretch out his hand, will reach out for a straw in order to save his life. Apparently the people in the walled city thought they are protected. וקיבלו היהודים אשר החלו לעשות, ושל כוסף מרדכי עליהם, כי הומן בן עמדוסו הגוגי. Please listen. צעיר כל היהודים. Haman doesn't distinguish between a Jew in a walled city or a Jew in a small town, in a hamlet. Between a Jew who resides in a palace or a Jew who lives in a shanty. Haman does that. If Haman made up his mind to exterminate, he would have done a thorough job. Everybody would have been exterminated. So hence, the salvation is all-inclusive, and everybody must participate in the celebration of Purim. כי המון בלמדו סוצר כל היהודים חושב על היהודים לעבדם. Interesting is, he added something, umatonis loevyenim. Mordechai. Because matonis loevyenim is symbolic. Mishte v'simcho mishleach mones. I want you to understand. Mishte v'simcho mishleach mones is simply symbolic, simply of joy, which, is due to an event in my life, which actually, I was saved, or my status was enhanced, and so, it's an event, a friendly event in my life, joy. But the joy can be very selfish, and very egotistic, not express himself in manifesting and demonstrating a feeling of solidarity. See, Mishleach Mones Ish L'Re'eu U'Simcha Mishte Yom Tev does not manifest a sense of solidarity among all Jews. Does not manifest at all. I rejoice, I celebrate because I was saved. I send some presents, gifts to my friends, because I would have been exterminated, and my friends would have been exterminated. We both rejoice. So, in order to express joy, you exchange gifts. This is way hard to express joy, satisfaction, merriment. But Matonis Levyenim has represents a different idea. Matonis Levyenim means a sense of solidarity. Solidarity. It's very interesting. Wherever the Chumash speaks about tzedakah, without an exception, usually when the Chumash speaks about Jews, he'll use the term re'eu, his neighbor, his next door neighbor. Re'eu basically is not a friend, it's a neighbor, an acquaintance. An acquaintance. כי ייגח שאיריש שאיראיו. כי ייתן איש אראיו כסף וכלם נשמע וגונף מבייס האיש. כי סובי בקרם ריחו. ואהבת לרעך כמך. ראיו. Whenever the Torah speaks of tzedakah, so the re'eu is substituted by your chicha, by your brother. Ki yomuch achicha imoch umoch mechazofei. Let's take a look. Ki yomuch achicha imoch umota yode v'azakta boi. V'chi yomuch achicha imoch v'nim kaloch v'savet v'avidas ovet. וכיססי ידגר ותשרים מוחו מוח החיכויים מבינים כלגר. And then ראי. תהי וחייב ימחת אחיכו באחת שורכו לסמץ לסבובכו ולסיק בצציותכו מיוכיכו אבי נת מריחו אבי מאחיך אבי ישם הלוך פי דובה מלבובך בליה למקורו שנת השבע שנת השמיטה you were afraid to give him a loan to lend the money because the Shemitah is around and then the Shemitah will cancel the indebtedness ורואה איכו באחיך אביין ולפיתני וקור אליך עד השם כי ליד הלוי מקרב אורץ הלכינו לכם לצפכו לאמר פסח תפתח אסיותכו ליוכיכו לענייכו נת לרעיכו כי ימוכר לכו אחיכו עבריו ואבותך שישונים ששלחן לחופשי ממוך לשכן ריקו לשכן ריקו הנכתניק לי why is it what's the idea that achicho is wherever the Torah speaks about tzedakah, about charity, middle chesed, grace, kindness, benevolence, is always achicho. When the Torah speaks about civil law and it disputes, the Torah uses the term re'eu, because re'eu in Hebrew means nothing. If one will conspire to kill his friend with slyness, premeditated. How can you kill a friend? If he's a friend, how can you kill him? So apparently either Re'eu is not a friend, or he was a friend yesterday, but he's not a friend today. But anyway, Re'eu means something which is very transitory, transient, doesn't last too long, doesn't endure, whatever it is. It's more an acquaintance, or more or less. Achicho means brotherhood. First of all, permanent. Couldn't say Yozid Ish Alochiv L'Horgibam. It would be nonsensical to say. Al-Re'eu L'Horgibam means brotherhood. First of all, there's the element of permanency, the brotherhood. Brothers, usually, in a normal fashion, never part. And secondly, Achicha means what they share a common destiny. They have a common past and they anticipate a common future. It means they share the same destiny. Identity of destinies. Identity of faith. This is in tzedakah. In tzedakah always the symbol of solidarity. Of solidarity. And Mordechai, when Mordechai dressed for the holiday of Purim, so Mordechai was not so much interested that he, Jews, should celebrate that he was saved. It doesn't take much, to celebrate an event which actually changed, the destiny of the Jew for the better. But what Mordechai emphasized is to implant in the Jews the awareness of solidarity, that we are all brothers. We are all brothers. And it was at the beginning when the Jews spontaneously began to celebrate Purim. The Purim was not declared was not institutionalized yet. It was not introduced as a mandatory holiday. Just spontaneously. So many Jews refrained from celebrating. Why did they refrain from celebrating? Simple reason, they thought they were not involved. When American Jews tell me, I don't know, it's hard to tell me, why should we celebrate in Yom Ha'atzmaut in Eretz Yisrael? We were not involved. It's an argument you hear often, not involved. And actually, the Jew who lives in Boston was not involved. The Jews of Jerusalem would have been exterminated, but not the Jews who live in Boston. They are in the area process, open, exposed. We live in walled cities, don't we? At least we think so. We do live in walled cities, we are protected, Baruch Hashem. So why should we join them? Why should we rejoice? This was the mentality of the Judim Area process. The Judim in the walled cities. The area process were exposed to danger, they were involved, over. They spontaneously rejoice. They were saved. Maybe Yontef, but why should we? And that's what Mordechai tried. Vayichtiv Mordechai said, Vayishlach Svarim, El Kol HaYehudim, to everybody. Asher B'chol Medina Yisrael Melech HaChashverosh, HaKrevim VaArcheikim, those who are so far away. After all, it was Meir Esther Medina, it was such a large area, it doesn't matter, it doesn't mean that it's foreign. Of Haman did the edict reach every country within the great empire of Achashverosh. It reached certain provinces. But in certain provinces the Jews didn't know anything about the whole, about it. It is all,